Hey everyone, welcome back to the final part of our e-commerce microservices series. In this video, we are going to wrap things up by diving into unit testing with XUnit framework. We have already covered creating a shared library, building the product and other APIs, and setting up our API gateway using Ocelot. Now, it is the time to ensure our application is rock solid by writing unit tests for our controllers, repositories, and HTTP services. Maybe you'll be asking yourself, why do we need to test our project? Well, testing is very important because it helps verify that each component of your application behaves as expected. This ensures your code does what it is supposed to do. By catching errors early in the development process, tests help prevent bugs from reaching production, saving time and effort in debugging later on. Also, automated tests provide a safety net when making changes or adding new features. They help ensure that existing functionality that you have created already remains stable and unaffected by new code that you're going to add or you have added. As soon as you have in mind that you want to test your project, it actually leads to better code design. It encourages writing modular, maintainable, and decoupled code, which is easier to test and understand. I believe that every developer wants to have confidence in his code. Therefore, knowing that the code is absolutely tested allows for more daring changes and improvement without the fear of breaking changes. In unit testing, it focuses on controller, repository, and HTTP service. So we're going to test our controller in the product API. We're going to test the repository also in there. And maybe we test our HTTP service and the other API. Based on this, the knowledge that you're going to gain from this, you can create the other test. We can create tests for all APIs. So I'm going to create 2, then I leave the one to you. And I'm sure and I believe you can do that yourself. Such amazing. All right, so let's open the previous project. And that is the demo e-commerce API or product API project. So that is our project open, and here it is a product API project. So this is what you're going to do. Let's create a folder to the solution, and now let's name this as source. And now with this, we want to move all these projects into this folder. So let's drag and drop. Now that we are done, let's go ahead and create another solution folder. And this folder, we're going to name this as UnitTest or test. Now with this test, we are going to add a project. So right click on the test, add a new project. And now with this new project, we're going to select the XUnit. So we can just click on this library and search for test. And you can see here we have unit test, and that is what we need, XUnitTest. So click on this, click on next, and I give it name. So here I'm going to say that this is unit test dot product API. When you are done, click on next to get this project created. The project is added, and when you go to solution, you can see that you have the framework being added. Now let's delete the default class created. We need to install packages such as Fluent Assertion and the Fake It Easy package. So I click on Manage NuGet Packages. Under Browse tab, let's install Fake It Easy. You can also use Mock. Okay, but let's use Fake It Easy. And let's get this package installed. Aside from that, we're also going to install Fluent Assertion. So we need only these two packages for our test. Let's get this package also installed. So now that we are done, we can verify from the dependencies packages, and here you can see that we are having the packages installed plus the default packages installed that come with the default framework, or that is the XUnit framework. We installed Fluent Assertion and Fake It Easy. Okay, now that we have these packages installed, the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to create a folder. Since we're going to test our controller first, let's have our controllers. And in these controllers, I'm going to add a class, and that will be the name of the controller. Then I'm going to add test to it. Here it is product controller, then test. So product controller test, and let's make this as public. In here, we need to set up dependencies. Dependencies are what you need in order for us to work with this. You know, when you have a look with the original controller, that is the product controller, it takes in an interface known as an iProduct interface. So when you check from our source and from the infrastructure, no, that is a presentation, sorry, controllers, and you can see from the product controller, it takes in this interface. Now this interface, it's what we need because this product controller depends on this to work. So we need to set up the dependencies, and also aside from that, we need to specify our system under test. System under test here, it is what you're going to test, and in this case we're going to test our product controller. So we need to make a copy of this, an instance of this, and we need to mock this, create a fake copy of this interface. That is what we need to be doing in all tests. So let's go to our controller. Now with this, there are two ways of doing it. You can specify this, you can provide the dependencies or create the dependencies within each test. But this time around, this is what we want to do. We want to have a property, let's say a variable, which is going to hold the instance of each, talking about the mock and also the unit of test or the system under test. That is a product controller. So we can be using them all over. Okay, so in that we can set them inside the constructor that we're going to create. Okay, so first of all, let's have, that is our controller test. Let's have our private variables to handle these. So we're going to say this is private, and now let's set this to read only. And this is our interface, so we're going to have iProduct. But you know, iProduct is not found because we haven't added it to this project. Right click on dependencies, and I'll click on add project references. Here we need to select the presentation, that is all, and I'll click on OK. So now here, if I click on control period, I'm going to get this. Okay, so iProduct, and I'm thinking that we should include it. So that is a product API dot presentation dot, and here we have controllers. So controllers, this is coming from the repo. So this is coming from application, isn't it? So the interfaces, that is where this is coming from. So iProduct, and I'm going to give it as product interface. Aside from that, we need to specify our system under test, what we are actually going to test, and that is our private read only. And now with this, it is just the product controller. So product controller, And with this, it is also coming from presentation, the controllers. And now with this, we say this product controller. Now let's create constructor, CTOR, hit on the tab key. And in here, let's set up our dependencies. So set up dependencies. And now the first dependency that we're going to set here is we're going to mock this interface, meaning let's create a fake instance of this interface. So we have our product interface, and this equal to a dot. Now this a is coming from the fake it easy. So control period fake it easy. Now we have a dot fake it. Now we're going to fake this. Let's specify the interface, that is the I product. Aside from that, let's set up our system under test. So set up under test, and that is the SUT. Now the system under test, we're going to say is a product interface, not as a controller, is equal to, we create a new instance, and when we have that, it needs an interface, so we pass in this dependency. So as soon as you create constructor for every class, and when you call this class, the constructor, it is the first method to get called. As soon as it gets called, we're going to have the values being assigned, and therefore the subsequent class that we're going to create is going to can have a value from what has been set already through the constructor. All right, so the next thing we're going to do here is let's first have a test, and it's going to be our first test. And here, that is a get all product. So when you cross-check our get all products, let me just ping this, and also ping this controller. So let's cross-check and see this get controller. Now this get controller can return not found when it couldn't get any. In case it gets it, it can also return okay. So we're going to check for not found, and we're going to check for OK status code. So you see we have two status codes here that we can check for. So let's first have a look on the first one. Let's give it a name. And here we're going to have fact. And in that, let's have a public async task. Let's have get product. And when product exists, so when product exists, if it exists, what do you want to do? Then return OK response with product. So that is when product exists, then you want to return OK results, or that as an OK response with product, and that's going to be the list of products. There are three patterns that we need to follow: arrange, act, and assert. So we have first is arrange is over here. Now what do we need? Okay, so since you are returning a list, this should be products. I believe you've done that already. Okay, so here under arrange, what are the things that we need in order to start this operation? We need a list of products. So let's create. So we say it is a product, and equal to, we have a new list. And now this list here of products, let's go and create. Let's go and add some products. So here we can have new, and we need the ID equal 1. Let's have name. Let's say this is product 1. Let's have quantity 10. Let's have price. Okay, so we have this our first product. Let's make a copy of this. Let's change this to ID 2, product 2, maybe 1, and okay. So this is what we have. We have a list with 2 records in it. Now let's save, and let's go in there and set up a fake response for get or async method. So let's set up fake response for this get or, so async method. And now this, when you check the controller, that is a get or. So this method is what you want to. So you can see this is coming from this interface. So you want to, since we have mocked this interface, we can call this and now produce our own custom message that we want. Okay, let's do that. So say a.call, then in here is a function that you want to do. So that is a product interface dot get or async. We want to call this method get or async, and in that we want to return this response. Now let's act, and that is a next pattern. So we have act. Now under act, that is how we're going to act on the system under test. So we're going to say this our results is equal await. Then we have our product controller but get product, and now with this get product is going to return product list, since we have it called or returned from this interface that we marked. Now let's go to this, and that is where we're going to access the results. So in here we're going to say, since it's going to return OK object, we want to say this is an OK object or OK result. Now this OK result, we say result dot, we're going to have result here. Let's set this to OK object result. Now once we're done with that, we can say OK object result dot should. Now this should is coming from the fluent assertion. Should not be null. You want to make sure it has something in it. So it shouldn't be null because we have provided list and you're returning list. So in the right process, it should not return null. Aside from that, you're going to say this OK result the status code should, it should be what? 200, isn't it? So we can say this is status code, and this status code, let's see where it should come from. Let's use microsoft.aspnetcore.http, should be OK. Now aside from that, we can also go ahead and now delve into this. We can also check for return product. So this is returned product is equal to this OK result that we have dot value, and let's cast this to our enumerable. Since it is an I enumerable that we want to return, is an enumerable of product DTO, right? And we can also check for this. Now that we are done with the status code, we can also check for the response from this controller method. So we say this return product should not be null as well. Should not be null. So not be null. Aside from that, we can have a return product should. Let's say you want to explicitly check. Let's say should be, or should have count. We can should have the count of, currently we have 2 added, so we can check it here and make sure it returns exactly 2. None is missing. And we can even check, we can go further and I'll check return product dot first. So the first dot id dot should be then be 1, because you know that the id here is 1 and the second one should be 2. So we are going deep by checking every piece of information that we have in it. And that will be last. So we have first, then we have last. Great. So we are done with our first test. Now let's run this and check it out. So from here, how do you run this? Go to test and I'll run all test. Then it's going to run this test, and in there you're going to have text explorer. If you're not having this, you go to views and now you have test explorer. You can click on this to get it. Now if you don't have any knowledge on unit testing, I made a video on that. So I'll put that video link in the description of this video. You can go there and also watch that. But trust me, if you do not even have any knowledge on that, by the end of you watching this, you get something. I believe you will do. So let's see. We know this app is still the test underway. So you can see it is still now finishing. It is running, and great, passed. So the record that we passed on, actually we are getting the same thing. We can just debug it, put breakpoint. Then let's check it out from here. Click on debug. And now let's go to the controller as well. Controller. Now put breakpoint here. Let's click on. Let's wait for this to get hit. Click on step in. Now we're going to call this interface, which is going to return the product. As after now we're calling this controller, and now we are hit on the controller. Click on next. We get product from here. Now you see this has returned a product of 2. That is what we processed and passed it on. Aside from that, we are returning. We convert it, and now here we're going to return the list. So yes, of course, this is working. So you can see from my controller action method here we have passed. So passing, it is passed now, right? Okay, so now we have this. Let's check for when there is no product and it should return not found. Let's check for that. So in here, let's have another method, and that's going to be the fact. We have our public static. So that is an async. This is task, and now we say get product. So where no product exists, and in case that happened, then do return not found response. So here too, let's arrange act and assert. So we get product here as list, new list of product. So with this, anytime that we call the fake or we call the mocked interface, you're going to return an empty list. And so let's set up. Fake response. So let's call this method. And now within this, we are saying this product interface dot get all async. Now this should return product. Product is null, and as soon as it is null, we're going to now act. So we're saying that the response or results, whatever, is equal to, then we're going to have an await our product controller dot get product. Now let's assert, and here we're going to say this let's first get a not found result. So we say this is not found result. It's equal to this result dot it has a result. Let's cast this to not found, because at the end it's going to return not found objects. Aside from that, we're going to say not found in here. So not found result should be, so it shouldn't be null, it should contain not found. Aside from that, not found result, then the status code dot should be, then it should be what? The status code of 404, and that is not found. And now let's also delve deeper. We can say message, because when we check the controller, in case product is not found, we are returning this no product detected in the database. So let's grab this. Now this response, you want to check it from here to see that as soon as a product is not found, you are returning or you are receiving exactly that text, not modified. Okay, so we say our message in here is equal to this not found, then dot value, we can extract it as what? String. Now with this, we can say message dot value here, that is message should be, we can say it should equal to this, or it should be, let's paste in that. Okay, that is great. Let's check this out. Run this. And as soon as it's passed, we're going to have it also as 2 out of 2 passing. Let's see. Yep, and that is also passed. So this passed. We can put breakpoint and now try to debug it our own and check it out ourselves. So let's do that in here and debug this. Continue on. Now we have empty list. We call this method, it returns empty. If it returns, we're going to call this controller method. Now this in here, we are hit. We get in and now this return null. In case it is null, what are you going to do? Check it out. We are returning this. So that the rest here are not going to execute it. So here you're going to return that. And now when we return it, this will be null as what? Not found. When we cross check from here, we're going to see our result. That is 404 for status. And this is a value. So that's why we are getting them in here and now using it. Alright, so you can see that this also passed. Now, the next thing that we're going to do here is let's check for create product. Now, when you go to our controller, you can see from the create product, we have this. That is this one. First we're going to return bad request. That is when model state is not valid. So we need to check for this, and then we're going to check for OK response. Now you have 2 bad requests over here, and we're going to check for this, and we can also even check for this response if it is bad request by specifying a flag here to be false, and I return bad request. So it means we can have 3 responses or 3 checks in here. Okay, let's first check the first one. That is a bad request. Now, since when you create this and it works, it means you're not going to repeating this again. As soon as this model state is working, then we can just grab that or copy that and then paste it in the subsequent test that you're going to be creating. Okay, so the next here we have our fact, and that will be public async task. That is create product when model state is invalid. So when model state is invalid, in case that happens, return bad request. And that is, so let's say here it is create product. Now in here, let's arrange assets. So we act, then we assets. Under arrange, let's have our product DTO. So we say our product DTO, then we say it's equal to new product DTO. With this, we create an instance, so we have one for the ID. Maybe we have product 1. Then for quantity and for price, now under this, let's add model state to this. So let's say maybe with the model state, and this will come from this product controller. We can have this model state in it, and in that saying add model error. And now with this error, we need to specify the key. The key here is name, and we have it as required. Okay, now let's go and act it. So we say this is the results, and we say await. We have our controller dot create product. Now with this create product, we need to specify our product DTO. Now let's asset this. So this is going to return bad request. So bad request results is equal to, let me grab this. So this is equal to, then we want to have result.result, we cast it to bad request object result. And in that, we can check this should not be null. So let's check for that. That should not. And we are saying this bad request, the status code that we're checking should be. Then we can have a look at the status codes. And that is bad request 400. Let's put breakpoint. Now let's check this. Let's go to our product controller and create, put the breakpoint in here. So the breakpoint is hit. Click on step in. Then we are adding to the model state. So if I check this model state, you see we have 1 entries, and is it valid? It's set to false. And now let's see what will happen. We call this, and now we're checking model state is not valid, so you want to return bad request. And in such case, you check in, we cast it to bad request, we check the response should be null, and of course it isn't null. I want to check it because we have the count of 1, so this is not null, and now this has worked. Yeah, so our model state is working, and we can be rest assured that all model state with this format is going to work or execute the same task, and the results should be the same. So we are not going to test for model state again, even if we found that in the controller. All right, let's go to the create itself, and that is create product. And now create this product should return OK with response, when it's success. So let's have our public async task, and that is create product. And under create product, when created or when created successful, then we want to return okay response. Okay, in here we arrange, we act, we assert. Let's create product DTO, and with our product DTO, let's see, maybe we can just create, because when creating product, you need to specify the model that you want to create for, right? So let's have this, our product is equal to, let's have new product DTO for now. Let's create that product DTO. We have this already, so I'm not sure we should. You know, we can create a fixture and put all this in, but for now, let's have everything in this scope. Okay, so we have this under act. What are we going to do? Let's also create response, and that is new response. This response, you want to make sure it is true, and I will say it is created. This response should come from our shared library. So under act, we want to call that. So we have call to. Then we have our product interface dot create async, and now in here we need an input that is a payload of product DTO. So we can say that a product, maybe DTO, because this needs product DTO. Want to check this. It needs, okay, this needs product. So we can say that a product, we want to ignore because we are not interested in that, and all that we need is a return type. This should return response because we have the response already configured, so we can go ahead and return the response. Aside from that, we are asserting it. Now, in order to assert, we said we're going to return OK response, right? So that's the OK result. And let's grab this result. We say this equal to result dot result. Then we want to cast it to what? Object result, isn't it? So we are saying result dot this result. Let's cast this. Okay, so we call this, we mark it, we call, but we are not calling the controller method. So we say this is result is equal to, we have await, then we need a product controller dot create product. Now let's pass in our product DTO. So here we can say results, this result that we have, dot we can have result. Then let's cast this as OK object results. Then in that we can say this should be this should not be null. Maybe we can have, and aside from that we can say that the status, we can check the status, and this should be status of what? 200. Status code of 200. Okay, let's proceed further by saying the response results, we can say this equal to this okay result dot value. Let's cut this as what? Response, because at the end we want to return response. Let's grab this and we're saying that here we want to have this response dot message coming in. So this response dot, we should have a message, right? Because we want to cast this as a response. All right, then this response dot message, okay, this message, we are saying it should be, all right, dot message dot should be, and this should be created because at the end you want to return created from here, and the success should be true. So we can get this, and I will say this is flag and it should be true. So be true. Great. Let's test it. Okay, so it should be 1F. Run this. So we are not debugging, we are running it straight, and this is also going to work out. So we can see that yes, passed. So controller, now we have 4 tests, and the last one, that's what we created. Return okay when created. Return okay response when created, and this is working. We have it. All right, so let's create the next one, and that is create product when create failed, return bad request response. Check here. Now we are going to create it. In case it fails, we want to return this bad request. So in that, we're going to set this response to failed, so we can have this object set to false. And in this case, when it becomes false, it means we're going to return this bad request. We are testing this in case during this operation we encounter an issue in there, and in case it returns not true, what should you do? Bad request. So let's have a look at that. And that will be public async task and create product when create fails. Then we want to return bad request response. Okay, now let's arrange, let's act, let's assert. So we're saying that we create our product DTO. We're saying this equal to new product DTO, and now you pass in for this product 1. Let me clear one of these. Okay, then we have our quantity, we have our price. Okay, so now let's create our response. And now this response, instead of setting this to true, we say failed. We set this to false. Okay, now let's go and act. So under act, we're going to make a call to. Now with this call to, we call our product interface dot create. And now with this create, what we're going to do here is it needs a payload. We can ignore as always, that is product. Then we can say this dot ignore. We are not much interested. What we need is a return the response that we have. So this is going to assumed as failed. After that, we're going to have our results equal to, let's call our product controller, and in that you're going to have our create product, pass in your product DTO, And now we can go ahead and set the results. So under that, we can have this bad request results is equal to, we have our results, we can get results. Let's cast it as bad request object, and in that we can say that this bad request result should not be null. It should have content, and the same thing, the status should be, since it is bad request, it should be the status code of 400. That is bad request. And let's proceed further by having the response result. We're saying this bad request that you have dot value. Let's cut this to response, because at the end it is returning response. Then we can say that this response result dot should be, this shouldn't be null as well. The next thing is, you want to check the message and now the key, that is a flag. So let's go in here, grab this, and now paste this. The message should be filled, and this should be false. Okay, this is going to work. Let's run this. And yes, of course, it is passed, so it has worked. Okay, now so we are done with our create. Now let's go to the update. So when we check this controller, we have an update here. Update product is also returning the same thing as request, bad request. So we are not going to test for this because it is the same thing from the create. So we assume it's still going to work as we provided the payload and in here. But well, you can go ahead and check for this as well. Now you know how to check that. So go ahead and now do justice to this. Now let's go and check this. We're going to return bad request and also going to return okay when product get updated or not. Okay. So we're going to check, and it's the same approach that we're going to use for this. So let's get going. We go to our controller, and now in here, we're going to have our fact. Then we say this is public async. It's a task. And with this, we're going to say update product. So when update is successful, we want to return okay response. Okay, so within this, let's go for this, and arrange. Let's grab this, copy and paste. So that's our product DTO. And so in order to escape all this, you could create a class so you can copy this once and then be using that. Okay, but we're not doing that for now. I think this also works, so let's stick to that. And let's make a call to this update, and that is act. We're saying that let's make a call to. Now with this call to, we say this is our product interface that we have in here dot update async. Let's ignore this. Instead of us passing the product, we can ignore. Then let's return task. So this should return task. So dot return, and now this is returning. When you check this update controller is returning action. That is the response, right? So let's go in there and I'll make it happen. So you want to return this response. Let's call the controller So we're saying that this result is equal to await. Then we have our product controller dot update, then pass in this product DTO. Now we can go ahead and assert it. So it is the same thing as here. We need an OK result, so let's go and grab all this. Let's come back and paste it peacefully. Okay, so we have this, and the result here should be updated. Here we are saying that this should be true and this should be updated, right? So this should also be updated, and that is true. Well, it is done. We can test this. And we check from our text explorer. This is going to execute it. Let's see if it's going to work. That is the last one over here. Oh, amazing. Yeah, it worked. Okay, so let's see the next one. And that is update product when update fails. And when update fails, what is it returning? Bad request. Let's have a look on that. And that is our fact. And now with this fact, we have our public async task. And now with this, we are saying update product when fails, or when update fails, then do return bad request response. Okay, let's arrange for this. So where we have this failed test, let's grab this and arrange. We have them here. Let's go to the act, and it is the same thing that we're doing. So instead of create, we're going to update it. That is the only difference that we should make. Okay, and here it is an update. Is it update? Update product. Okay, now let's check for this, the asset. We grabbed all this, and it is the same thing, because at the end it should return bad request. And that is it. This should work. Now this is failed, right? So maybe we can specify as an update failed. Then we say this is an update failed. Now the reason why we are setting up a response here ourselves and now checking it here is when you check the controller, you know, when update fails, you are not returning any test. So when you don't have any test in here, it means you cannot check that test explicitly here. You need to set up your own and now get it. That is what we're doing. Now let's save and now let's test. Yeah, and it has also worked. So you can see that it also worked, and now we have it. So this is also working in case a failed request operation being called or being executed. Yeah, we can handle it with a bad request response. So let's go to the last one, and that will be delete for the controller. And now with this, it should be the same thing as public async task. And now we're saying that this is delete product. And now under that, we say when delete is successful, then return OK response. So when delete is successful, we want to return OK response. Now in that, we need to specify our response and our DTO. So you know what to do already. You don't need to waste time at all. Just go in there, grab it, and we have our product in here with an ID of 1. Then we're going to check here as true. And for our message, we're going to say deleted successfully. So let's have. Okay. Let's set up our response to get a fake response from the delete async. So to get fake response, set up to retrieve response from delete async method. So in here we are saying a.call2, then we're saying that our product interface that we have dot delete. Now this delete, we need that is a product. So you know what to do. We can say the product I want to delete get ignored, and just go straight and I return this response. That is what I'm interested of. Okay, so now that we have this, it seems you're not having return not results, return. Okay, and that will be under, let's go and act. All right, so this act should be here, this should be here, this should be under arrange. Okay, then we're going to act over here. We should take note. All right, so let's go and act. So we say this is a result, and this equal to our weight. We have our product controller, not the controller test, it's rather the controller. Then we can have access to delete product, specify this product DTO that you want to do it. Now after that, we want to check. So with this, we can check for okay, and that is coming from here. Let's check for okay. Do you have okay? I think one is here. Great. Let's grab that under assets, and let's go and paste it down here. Want to skip writing a lot. All right, so it should be true, and the response should be deleted successfully. So if you don't provide this test won't pass, it should be true, and there you go. Give it a try. Oh, it worked. Wow. So we have one last that we need to create, and that's a test for the delete. And this should return bad request response as soon as something happened and a delete operation couldn't get success. Let's have a look on that. So we have our flags. That is public async task. So delete product, and in that, when delete fails, kindly return bad request response. Let's have, as usual, we can go ahead and grab this, or we look up to the failed one, we can grab here. Then let's paste it. So we can say that delete failed. This is our product ID. Let's set up a fake response so we can grab this, and within this we're going to say that we make a call to that, and here's a delete. We ignore that, and now we return this response, send the response here has in false. Let's act. Let's grab this. Under act, we say we act, passing this product, and now from this response we want to check. So we can check from here. Since it's going to return bad request, we can grab all these from the assert. We go in there and we paste it in here, and that is all. All that you need to do here is to copy this and change to failed or delete. Let's run this. Oh, such amazing. And you can see that this also passed. So when you check the test explorer, you can see all tests that we made are passed. It just says that our controller, we configured it well and it is working without any issue. And in case even there's an issue, we've handled that with a write status response, that is status code. Great. So the next thing we're going to do here is let's go and check our repository. So we have one repository into this as well. Let's go and do that. So let's create a folder to the project and let's set this as repositories. And here it is product repository. So product repository test. Now in here we need to do same as we did in the controller. So quickly let's have a public class. Let's mark our whatever things that we need to be using. Let's make sure we set them in the constructor to get initialized as soon as this class get called. Okay, so let's have our private. We have our read only. Read only. There's our product DB context. And now that is a product DB context. We also have our private read only. We need our product repo, that is a system under test repo, and that is coming from, this should come from repository. Let's see. If you're not finding it, it means we have to add it. You know, when you go to the controller, we did the same thing from our test. So we need to grab the using statement. This is too long. Let's remove all the unnecessary usings. Okay, so we need this so there's an interface iProducts. We need a product. This is an interface, and we need the repo itself. So here, this is going to come from. We need to use using, and that is, it's coming from product API dot infrastructure dot repositories. Okay, so we're not having that. Let's go and check it out. So repository is coming from product API infrastructure repositories, and in here, okay, so we need to use this. Oh, okay, this should be public. Okay, so that's the reason why we are not getting that. So infrastructure, then repositories, that is it. So we have it. Now in the constructor, let's set things straight. We're going to say options here equal to new DB context. DB context option. Do you see yours? I don't want to type all. Context options. And now with these options, we want to get the builder, not the context itself. Let's provide our context that we have created as our product DB context. And in that, you want to use in memory. Although we are using an SQL server, but it's the same thing. Okay. So in memory actually is faster than SQL server, because in memory is whereby data have been cached or saved in the same service memory. Retrieving and creating, performing this query is very simple, fast, and secured. So I think for test purpose, it's good that we use in-memory database. Whether you are using any external database, use it for testing, period. Okay, so let's install this. We need to install this database. And right-click, go to dependencies. You get package manager. And in here, let's use in-memory. It's coming from, let's say, let's have an in-memory. This should come from Microsoft. So Microsoft, do you see Microsoft? No, we don't see that. So maybe SQL Server in-memory database will be attached. We can have that. All right, so that is this one, Microsoft.entity framework core.in-memory. And as you can see from here, it is in-memory database provider for EF core to be used for testing purposes. Yes. So we are using this package for the right work. Okay, so let's accept this. Then let's go to our repository tests. And in here, we're going to have access to .use in-memory database. Now this should come from the package that we just installed. Let's have a look. Use in-memory database, and yes, so let's specify the database name, and now we are saying that this is just product DB. So that is the name of the database that we're creating in the server's memory. Then aside from that, we need to specify these options too. Now once you have this, let's set things straight down here. We're going to say our product DB context is equal to new product DB context. We pass in the option that we have built, which connects to our in-memory database. Aside from that, when you have the DB context, it means you can configure our product repo, which depend on or which needs the DB context as a, let's say, as a parameter for that. Okay, so we're saying that in here we need a product repository, and it's equal to new product repository. Then it needs what? The payload of product DB context. So once you have it, we just pass it on. Now we are done. So as soon as this method gets called, we have these variables. We have the values assigned to each. Now let's get going. And I have our first repo test. So that is create product. So now we are using in-memory database. We are not using SQL database. Take note. Let's have fact. So that is fact. Yes. And this should be public async task. And that is create async when product already exists. Then what you want to do, you want to return error response. Where did that get this from? Let's go to, so we can close the controller test. Let's save this. We can close this controller itself. We can also close this since we are done. Now in our repo, this is what we're doing. You can see from here that before we create, we are checking if the name is already found. If it is there, then return this response already added. Then we're going to check it. And also in case you save it and now the ID is greater than 0, it means it is saved or created. And in here, we're going to return response. Okay, so let's start doing that. So the first thing is under arrange. What are we doing? Let's say this an existing product. It's equal to new product. Now this new product, you want to specify name. We say name is equal to this existing product. Okay, so with this we have new product. and we need to include domain. So that is the name of the product. Now once you're done, the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to add it to the database. So we're going to say product db context dot product dot add, then pass in this existing product. So you want to test and see in case we can add data, you can create data to our database and return exactly what we need. Okay, then we're going to say await this product db context dot save changes. Then we say this is, let's have our product. That's an existing product that we have created. We need to act on. So this is act. Now under act, we say this is a result. And now this result is equal to, we have our product repository dot then create async, passing the existing product. So this is an existing product. Now let's assert it. So we're saying that results here should come from Fluent. Let's include a namespace for the using. So results should not be null. Aside from that, we want to say results should be false. Results.success, and here that is going to be the flag. So result.flag in here dot should be false. And we also check in results.message dot should be, and now this message we need to say existing product already exists. Do you know where we're getting this from? Existing product already exists. Now when we check our repo from here, we are saying that in case name is found, then we're going to say the name of the product already added or exists or added. So we can copy this and make it as added. Yeah, we have it in here. Okay, so this is the name of the product and already added. So the result here, we are checking it that it should match exactly what we have in here. And that is create when product already exists. Let's try this. Let's first save. And let's run this. Oh, okay, so this worked one pass. So what we did was, before adding the data here, calling this to add the data, we need to add the data ourselves to the database so we can check if it actually found in there. And that is what we did. So here we add the data, we save it, then they make a call to that and check if the data is available already. If so, then return the response, and then we want to check it in here. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do here is we need to check. Let's create and then return. If product does not exist, we're going to add product and then return success response. So we have our fact. So public async task, and here we're saying create async when product so does not exist. Then what I'm going to do, add product and returns success response. So that is the name of our test. Very long, but it makes sense. Let's have our arrange. So we say product here is equal to new product. We say name is equal to new product. Let's act. So var results is equal to await. We have our product repository dot create product. And now let's have our assets, and now we're saying that results should not be null. Let's grab this results, and now this should be true. And results should be new product added to database successfully. And that will be the message. Cross-check from the message. So the name of the product in here added to database successfully. That is what you need to also implement. Let's save. Let's test. Okay, so we have an issue here. Let's go to Text Explorer. Now for create async, expected results should be new product added to database, but with a length of 41, but we had this. That is 42. Okay. Now let's see. So new, that is the name, new product. As soon as we add it, we want to return new product added. Let's rerun this. And there you go. It is passed. Okay. So we have create async. Now let's go to delete. So we're done with that. Let's check for, and maybe let's have delete product. This should be fact. Then we have our public async task. And delete async when product is not found. What do you want to do? You want to return not found, and that is 404, right? So let's have our arrange asset. No, that is an act. Then we have our assets. So in here we have our product. Is equal to new product. Then with this, we need to specify the ID equal 1. We say name is equal to existing product. Then maybe we can add price. And the last one, we can add quantity. So quantity 5. Now price is equal to this. Let's close that. Okay. Let's add this to the database. So we're saying that product db context dot product dot add, because we need to add it before we can make a search to get it. Then in here we want to act. So result is equal to await our product repo dot then delete passing an ID. So what is the ID that you need to pass in? Or even here we need to pass in the model. So pass in this model, and that is it. Let's assert this. Result should not be now, should be true. You can just go ahead and ungrab this. And now the result should be this existing product deleted successfully. Let's add M to that. Okay, now let's have a look at delete async when product is not found, and this will return not found response. So this should return not found, but well, this should return success because here we have the product we are adding. So delete product when product is, this one is found. Align to mismatch the name, so product is found, return success. Return success. And now the next one here is if product is not found, this should be public async task let's save it. Okay, so within this we need to also create the same thing. All that you need to do here is to create, because you know the ID that we're going to pass it on here is 1. Anytime that you want to delete, we need to pass in the ID. So here we have the ID. Let's grab this. We have an ID as 1, and arrange, we have our product. Let's go and act. So under act, you pass in this product. Since it has been added already in here, we can delete it. And let's check for the response. So response should be, so let's send the name in here. This is non-existing product. And I will say that here non-existing product not found, but that is what we are doing. We are returning in our response, and this response should be false, and that is all. Let's run our test and see whether these two tests are going to get executed and passed. So when you check this test, we're going to have an issue here because, you know, we have this added already and we want to check. So let's set this ID to 2 because you want to find out and see if this ID does not exist. Then you want to return not found, isn't it? Yeah, so ID 1, no, ID 2. Now let's try that and see. When we check from the repository, you know, in case we did not find that, we're saying that this entity.name not found. So we need to provide the name of the model that you want to add. Then we append not found to it. And that is exactly what we're doing here. Now let's see. So let's run this. And there you go. You can see that here it worked. All right, so we are done with the delete. Let's go to get product by ID. So let's first check the repo. Get product by ID is over here. So we can find it, find by ID async. And with this, we want to return null in case it's not found. But in case it is, they want to return product. So it means you're going to have 2 tests for this. Let's go ahead and grab that test. So we say this is get product by ID. So public async task, and that is find by ID async. So find by ID async, Okay, and in that we're saying when product is found, we need to product is found, then what are you going to do? Returns product. So when you pass in the ID, it goes to sets, and now we're able to find the product. Then we want to return the product. So let's grab this because you have a product here already. So under arrange, let's grab this product. The ID here is 1. Let's make sure we save it to database. So let's go and save this database. Now after saving this product, we now go in there and act to make a search, and now we say this result is equal to the product repository dot find by ID async, and then here we need an ID, so we can say this product that we have dot ID. And now let's asset. Under asset, we can have a look at, we can say that the result should be not null, then it should be 1, because from here we want to find the ID of this should be 1, because you want to find the ID 1, that is an ID, and also the name should be existing product. So let's make sure the name is equal to that. So this is going to work. So let's mark with the fact attribute, and we can run this. Let's finish with the next one, then run them together, and that is when product returns null. So we have our public async task, then find by ID async, then when product is not found, what do you want to do? Return null. So here under arrange, we provide nothing. Under act, we're saying that result is equal to await. We have a product repo dot find, then pass in any random number. Now asset, we're saying that this result that should be null, and this should work. This is a very simple one. Okay, now let's go to get our product. So that is get our product. So when you check get our product, you can see that we are returning list or null. So it's likewise the same as what we've done here. But before that, we need to create a list of product to return. This is fact. And let's have our public async task. So get our async when products are found, then return products. So under arrange, let's have our product is equal to a list of products. Now with this, we need to add new product, and I will say this ID equal 1. Let's add name, that is product 1. Let's make a duplicate, and now that is 2. ID is 2. So now that we have the list, let's go ahead and add it. So we need to add this product. Let's add them to the list. So you're going to say that product db context dot, we can have product. Let's add range, specify this product. Then product db context dot save changes async. Now let's go and act. So we say this is a result. And we say this equal to, we have our product repository get all, and under assets we're saying that results here that should be not null. That is the first one. We can also say that results.count should be, and now let's specify 2, because you know that the list is 2. You're gonna have result.should, then we say .contain. So we are checking the product coming in, and product maps to, so p.name should be equal to, and that is product 1. And we also do same, we make sure we have the same thing as that. Okay, so that is this. Then what's the next thing that we can do? We can also get all async. When no products are found, then we want to return null. So we have our fact. Then in here we have our public async task, and that is gets all async. So when products are not found, what do you want to do? Return null. So under arrange, we do nothing. Under act, we say var results is equal to, then we have our await product repo dot product, so dot get all. Now since we are not adding anything, it means this will not work. It's going to return null. Now let's assert it, and I will say result dot should be null, and this should also work. Now aside from that, you know, we can get by any type. So when you check our repo, in here we have another method, get by any type. Okay, so that you are specifying our function in here, so we can get by name, get by any property at all. It's not by just an only ID, or we are not making an explicit data type. We can check all the properties one by one using this method. So let's also have a method test for that. And here, let me say this gets by any type, and this type could be integer, could be string, could be boolean, etc. So in here, let's have our fact, and we have our public async task. So get by async, and I will say when product is found, then do return it. So when product is found, do return the product. Then the next thing that we're going to do here is under arrange, we want to get product in here, equal to new, the product that we have, and we want to specify defaults. Let's grab an ID equal 1. Then we have name equals product 1. Aside from that, let's go ahead and add it. So product db context dot product dot add, then add this product. After that, save changes. Then here, let's specify the expression. So we're saying that the expression here, expression that we have, and this expression should take in the func function. Now this func should take in the t object and that the t model, and the t model here, it is a product in a bool. Aside from that, we want to say this is predicate, and now with this we're saying it's equal to p, which maps to the p dot. So we want to check if name is equal to product. So if name is equal to product 1, so as soon as it gets it, it means this is going to work. We need to terminate it. The closing should be true, as you know. Yes. Then let's go and act, and under act we have our result, and it's equal to await. We have our products repo dot get by async, and now passing this predicate, because you know this function method here needs a predicate, so you need to build this predicate first before we can pass it on here, and that is exactly what we've done. Now let's assert it. So under assert, what can we do? What can we check? We can check if result dot should not be null. We can check for that because we know by all means we've added a product, so we're going to get it. And we say results dot name dot should be, so it should be, let's have a look at it, and that's going to be product 1, because that is a product name that we are specifying, and this should also work. Okay, now let's see get by async when product is null. Now we are making a set from here, so let's provide the same method and pass maybe 2 and check it out. So let's grab this. Now let's say get by async when product is not found, then return what? Null. Because when you check our repo, when the product is not found, it is returning null, and that is exactly what we're doing here. So you must make sure at the end of the test we are returning the same instance or the same result as it has been configured in our repo. So here we say we've added products. We can remove this. So under arrange, we need only our expression. Act, we perform that. So let's say we can change this to 2. Then product should be null. So it should be null. That is all. And this should pass. Trust me. When we are done, we try all of this. We're going to have success. Okay. Now let's go for the next one. That is an update. And that is update product. Now for update product, let's see from the repo. You can see from here we can return when the product is null, we want to return this product not found. I think we've done updates, haven't we? So we have when product is found, so we have get product is found, find by, we have delete, then we have create, then okay, so that is create, delete. So this is the create, right? We have this is a delete, then we have get product by ID, we get it. Then we have get all products. Okay, get by any type. And okay, so update, that's great. So let's have a look at that. Now with the updates, we're going to say that this is public async task, and that is updates product when product is, let's say, updated successfully, then return success response. When our product, returning success response in here when we update it. Okay, so let's first create our product. So we can have a product created in here. Let's say ID equal 1, name equals product 1. Now we're going to update this. So before that, we should add this product first. We're going to say add it, and at the end of the day, we're going to save it. Okay, now this comes under arrange. And the next one here is we're going to have a look on the next one, that is act. So under act, we're going to say results is equal to await, then product repo, the update, passing this product. And our result should not be null, and that is accept. Result shouldn't be null. Aside from that, we can say that result should be true. So result dot flag be true. So results should be true, yes. And our results dot message dot should be. Now let's construct a message from here. When it's true, we are saying that update is updated successfully. So we just have to add a name. And what is the name? Is product 1. So product 1 is updated successfully. That's going to be the name. Okay, now that we are done with this, let's go to the next one. That is when product is not found. What are we going to do? It's a fact. So we have our public async task. So update product, unless it is an update async. I think that is a method. Update async. Okay, so update async. Now we should have fact on top. Now update async, and we are saying when product is not found, what do you want to do? Return error response. So under arrange, what are we doing? We're saying this, we get our updated product, and that is equal to new product. We have ID equal 1. Maybe we have the name equals product 22. Aside from having this, let's act upon. So under act, you have our results equal to await, then product repository dot update product, then pass in this updated. So this is going to make a search, and this should be a search. Now under assets, response should not be null because definitely it's going to return something. And in that we can check for it should be false. So let's grab this too. And let's check it from here. So instead of this, it should be false. And when you check for this one, it's saying not found. So not found, we should add it product one, not found. Okay. All right, so now that we have all these sets, we're going to build this, okay? And we're going to test this because we haven't tested the new one that we just built. So let's see, let me just minimize them so we can see they're all going to have this mark min pass. All right, so let's go ahead and let's do them together. So run all tests. Now let's wait, let's open our test explorer. And in here, let's wait patiently while we build all this and test all these endpoints or methods. All right, so I think we'll be having an issue here. This must be 22, and I believe you've corrected that. So let's do it again. Now run our test. All right, that's amazing. Now you can see that all are passed. Let's check our explorer in here. Wow, so you can see we have all tests run, and all of this, you can see 21. We are good. Yes, so it means our repo is working. It's handling the success and the error section nicely, so we can push this to use. So we have our last test that we to do, and that has to be the HTTP service. And now within the product API, we are not handling any HTTP service in it. We are handling that in the other API. So let's go to that and also test that service, and we can conclude this video. So that is our other API solution. Let's minimize all these. We need to create a folder named as source, a solution folder, and after that, let's move all this into the folder. Let's create another solution folder. Then this is going to be test. Let's add the framework. And this is going to be XUnit. And that is other API. So UnitTest dot other API. And that is it. Let's create this project. Let's go ahead and install our packages. So right click, but before, let's clean the default UnitTest class created. Now right click on dependencies and let's add NuGet package. Let's install the packages that we did install. Make it easy. And also fluent assertion. Now let's install fluent assertion. So now that we have these packages installed, we can check from dependencies, packages, and we have Make It Easy, fluent assertions, packages installed. Now since this, we are only testing for the HTTP service, we first need to check our HTTP service. This can be found in the application layer. In that we created a folder known as services. we created an interface known as iOrderService, which takes in two interfaces, and that is what we're going to test out. Now, when you go to the implementation, we are having getProduct. It is a public, and we're also having getUser. Now, in order for us to test this, since this is public, it means we have to take this and add it to the interface so we can get it in there. So let's have app user, and now this is get user. We pass in the user ID, and also we go to the service, and then that is get product, and we need to provide product ID. So that is product ID, and in this case we have their implementation in here. Great. So now that we are done with this, let's go to our unit test, and now in our project, right click, let's add folder to this, and maybe I'm going to name this as services. Now within this folder, let's add ordered service test. So add a class, and let's name this as order service test. Order service test. Let me maximize this. Okay, this should be public. I believe you know that, and you've done this already. That's great. The next thing that we need to do after setting up or changing the private to public here is we need to create a constructor and now set a default setup. That's a default setups. And in this, we need the interface. Okay, so let's have our private, then read only. And now with this iOrder. Now we need to add this project. So add project reference. And now within this, we need to select the application because that is where our service is found. Now iOrder service, this should come from, so let's add it. We're using order API dot application dot services, and we can have this iOrder service, and now we're saying this is order interface, or let's say order service interface. Okay, so let's generate constructor and initialize this when it starts. And in here we are saying that this order service that we have created is equal to this we need to use the fake it easy dot, then we are going to fake this iOrder service. Okay, so maybe we can use lambda to handle that. Great. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is let's start our first test. Now before we start our test, we cannot mock, or we cannot create fake instance of the HTTP client. So before we can use to test, we need to create fake HTTP message handler. And now within that, we can use that to generate a client. Okay, so let's first have our public class. And we need a fake HTTP message handler. And now this takes in HTTP message handler. And I will say this is response. Now this should inherit from HTTP message handler. And aside from that, what we need to do here is we need to create a private variable which is going to handle that. And we are saying this is private read only, and now it's HTTP response. Then we are having this response. We assign this response to the response over here coming in. So anytime that we call this response, okay, so this should be response message. And this should be response message. Okay, so anytime that we call this method, we need to pass in a response. Now this response, we're going to assign it to this response that you have in here. So this response is a placeholder, a variable, which is holding the value of this response. Okay, so once you have the value being held, the next thing we're going to do here is let's have a protected. There's we need to implement one here, so control period. Let's see if we can implement this abstract class over here, and that is send async. So within that, you want to do nothing but just return. You want to just return tags dot from results. So we need not to have return because this lambda is going to handle that. So all that I need to do here is tags dot from results, and in that specify the response that you have. So we are not actually doing any call, any HTTP call. We specify our own message. Now as soon as we call it, we assuming we are making a call, and I will just going to return a response, assuming this response is coming from a call that we made. I believe this is clear. Okay, so we have this. Now the next thing that we're going to do here, maybe this will get you confused, right? Okay, so maybe I can just make it like this. Great. So this, we have this our fake HTTP message handler created, and now all that you need to do here is to use this handler to create client. So here, let me say create fake HTTP message handler. Then here we can say create fake client using HTTP message handler. And I forgot one thing, using fake. So fake should come here. You're not using the original one, else you're going to have an issue. Okay, so now let's generate this handler. And in order for us to do it, what we're going to do here is it should be a private, then this is static. This should return an HTTP client, and we are saying get fake, create fake or get fake. So create fake HTTP client. Then let's specify an object. The reason why I am specifying an object here is so we can pass in any object at all. Okay. Then, or if you want, you can also specify a string so that before you pass on, you call this method, you have to serialize your object into string and pass it on. There are many options that you can choose, but well, let's say this option. Now we're using this as object, and in here, what are we going to do? We're going to say that let's have our HTTP response. Response message is equal to new HTTP response message. And now this response message, you need to specify our return, or that's the status code that it should return. We want to have status code of OK, and that's what we have. Now aside from that, we need to create our HTTP client. And now this client is going to have equal to new HTTP client. And now with this, we pass in our fake HTTP client. So that is our fake in here. But before we create this fake, we need to actually call this fake method. So we say this var fake HTTP message handler. Then this equal to new fake HTTP message handler. This needs a response, so you pass in this HTTP response. Then let's copy this fake and I'll pass it on here. Now within that, we need to specify the base address. Now this base address is just camouflage, okay? So it won't work. Trust me, it won't work. But we need to specify that. So we're going to say this HTTP and I'm saying localhost. You know, I'm not even specifying port, but still we're going to achieve what we're going to be using it for. So let me just say HTTP, at least do something, pass something in here. Then when we are done, let's return this HTTP client. And in this case, we have an instance of HTTP client, a fake one created. So we can go ahead and use this fake. Let's go for our first test. And on this first test here is we're going to test for this. Now let's go to the service and see something. Now in the service, that is the other service, you know, we are implementing retry policy using poly. So when you have a look at this, we are having this get other detailed. We are having, I think, retry pipeline created. And that's what we're using to call this. Now, you know, in testing, we don't want to use this retry because you're not retry. You want to actually check if you can get the response. Now, this retry here, it means when it fails, then it's going to retry. But we don't want to use this in the test. We want to make sure that we target the response itself. So that's the reason why in the first place, I created a simple method and I used it to call here. I did not specify this method in here. I made that because at the end, we're going to test it. And that is where we are now. Okay, so what we can do here is, you know, at the end of the day, we want to get order by ID. And you have this method being called and I'll pass on this ID. So instead of executing this find by ID async, no, get order detailed, all that you want to do here is when we get here, we can call this method get product and now get user. Okay, so we can call this, and that's the reason why I have extracted this method out there. So we have get user and now get product. All of these are issue or be on the line of what an HTTP call to make. We have a fake one, so we're going to provide our own product and also our own user, and I return it. So let's test these two methods to see whether client or HTTP service is actually working and there's no issue. All right, so there's going to be a fact. And now here we want to get product. So get product. And that is public async task. So the method name is get product. And if it is valid product ID, then return product. So in here, let's arrange. Now in that we have our product ID. Let's say this equal to 1. Let's have our product DTO. Now we are saying this equal to new product DTO, and now we are having 1. Product name is product 1. Then we have that is a quantity and that is a price. Aside from that, let's have an instance of this fake HTTP client. So you're going to say that is HTTP client, and this equal to, you call this fake HTTP client, and here it is just create fake HTTP client. And then the response that you want to return, you pass in here as object. That's going to be product DTO. Then let's specify our suite, that is a system under test. And also, now in this system under test, what we are doing here is, so we only need the HTTP client to make calls. Okay, so here we need to provide. Now, you know, with this, when you check this other service, you know, is handling this interface, is handling this resilient pipeline, but we don't need any of this. We only need this HTTP client. Therefore, we can pass null to each. So let's specify. So specify only HTTP client and null to the rest. So with this, we're saying that here there's a var. We're going to have our other service is equal to new other service. So this is a system under test. Now this needs interface, passing null. We don't need that. We need HTTP client, so we pass in our HTTP client. Then we need resilient pipeline, we pass in null. And within this, after we are done here, we can go out there and now act. Let's check for null. Under act, we're going to say that results is equal to, then await our other service that we created. Dot, then we have get product. Now this get product, we can specify our product ID. And under assert, we can say that results dot should not be null, because we are returning this from the service. And also we're saying that results dot ID dot should be, it should be equal to the product ID that we have in here, because it is the same ID that we are passing in. Then the name should also be the same. The result dot name dot should be, and it should be what? Product 1. And that is the same name that we are specifying. We can also check for quantity and our price. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do here is we need to test for our get product. You know, in get other service, with this, we are returning null and we are returning product. So let's also check for null. So in the test, let's see, get invalid product ID, and in here we need to return null. So another one, we have our fact, and this is public async task. So still get product method. When you provide invalid product ID, then return null. So we have int product ID. Let's say it's equal to still 1. Then we are saying that this HTTP client is equal to create fake HTTP client. And within that, we provide null as response. Then once we have this, we need to create our suite. So let's have our order service. This order service equal to new order service. We pass in null. Then we pass in our HTTP client. We pass in null again. Then under act, we need to act. So we say result is equal to await. We have our order service dot get product, and let's pass in product ID. So this should be the product ID. To pass in the product ID. Now let's assert it. And then here we are saying results dot should be null. Okay. So let's test what we have in here and check it out. Click on test, run all tests, and wait and see. Alright, so you can see we are having error in here, and the reason behind this is, line 29 where we have this response, we did not serialize it. So when it gets to the other service where we need to deserialize it, the problem occurs. When you check this other service, when it gets here, it has to deserialize it, and since we haven't serialized it, there's going to be an issue. So quickly we do that before it escalates. So we're going to say content here is equal to, let's have this content. We're going to serialize this JC content, then pass in this object. I think this will solve the issue. Well, I'm sure. JC content dot create. All right, now let's try again. Oh no, amazing. So you can see that it is done. It's passed, and this also passed. Yeah, so it means our method over there is working nicely. Now the next thing that we need to do here is to get the user. And now for user, it is the same thing that we're going to be doing, because it is the same method we call the service. Then we pass in we call this product, pass in an ID, and it is the same endpoint that we are calling the same state or the same order that we have range our code. That is what this user is following. You can see we are getting it, so we can compare this and say that fine, if this is working, then this is also going to work. But well, I will leave that one to you for you to test it out. So we have our last method that we need to test, that is get order by client ID. Now with this, we need to have an order. It's returning an enumerable of order, and in here is a get orders by client ID. So all that we need to do here is to specify the client ID, and I'm just going to get a list from our interface that we created, which is connected to the database, and get a list and a return. In case there's any, then return it, else we're going to return null. You see that? So we need to test that. So let's quickly run that, and that'll be all for today. So let's have a fact in here, and with this we are saying that this is get. So this is going to be get client orders by ID. So get client orders by ID. Now in here, let's have our public async task, and now this is get orders by client ID. That is, if order exists, we want to return order details. So if order exists, then you want to return this order details, and this should be in the form of a list. So let's arrange. Let's have our client ID. Client ID is equal, let's say this is 1, Then aside from that, let's have our orders. So it's going to be list of orders. And there's a list of orders that we are specifying. That's an order. Now with this new order, we have a product ID. We have client ID, which is equal to this client ID. Then we have the purchase quantity and we have the order date. Okay, we're adding 2 orders for this specific client ID of 1. Now the next thing to do here is you need to mark it. Now you can see when you check the order service, here we are specifying using this expression, right? So we need to specify this in there. So let's mark it and I'll return something rather than calling this interface. So in the test, let's see what we can do. So we're going to mark the get orders by method. So here this is what we're going to do. This A is coming from call to fake it easy, and now you're making a call to this order service. So let's see. Do you have order service in here? Okay, so that's the order service interface. Order service interface dot, then we have our get orders by client ID, and in here let's specify this expression which takes in a func of t value, which is the order, and a bool. Aside from that, we need to, let me bring this here. Okay, so aside from doing this, we want to ignore. So we have 3 open dot, let's have an ignore. We want to ignore this, and at the end we want to return results. So let's have another closing, and we say we want to return result. Let's see if you're doing it well. I think the method is wrong. It is get orders by, which takes in this func. So get orders by, do you have this method in there? That means we need to mark the interface itself. So let's come here. We have the service interface marked. Let's have another one, private. That is a read only, and that is an I order. Now this order is an interface which is coming from the application. Then let's say this is order interface. So we have a service and we have the interface. Okay, now in here when the app starts, it means we can use this lambda. It should be, then in here we are saying that this order interface equal to, then a fake, we're going to fake this I order. So we have this. All right, then we can go ahead, grab this, and then go to where we are. So instead of this, then we can get this get by async, which takes in the func. Yes, so we have get by async. Now this is going to return an order. You want to get the list, so get by get orders async, which returns list. That's great. Okay, so in here we can have dot returns, and now this returns, we are specifying this orders. Okay, so we are done with that. Now the next thing that we're going to do here after we call this is to act. So let's act on this. Now under act, we say this is a result, and this result is equal to await. We call our order service. There's an order service, and here we have get by client ID, you pass in the client ID that we have. And after that, we want to assert this. Now under asserting, we say result dot should be not null. So result not be null. And aside from that, we can have results dot should have count. We are returning 2, so we can say others that we have dot count. And the last one, we can say result dot should maybe to have count greater than 1. No, maybe 2, greater or equal to. So we can have greater than or greater or equal to. So greater or equal to. I think I am not. Yeah, so greater or equal to 2. All right, now let's also run this. Run and check it out. All right, so we are having an issue here, and when you check from our text explorer, it is saying that expected results contain 2 items but found 0. And the reason why we are getting this is, you see, we call this interface, we returned this other list, right? But we did not call the method itself. So here, that's what we need to do. We need to say that this result, that is an order service. Then this order service is equal to, we have new order service. Now in that we specified order interface, not the order service interface, rather the order interface, this. Now within this service, we can now use this service in here to get order by client ID, and I'll specify that. Okay, so let's see. Let's try this once more. Let's put a breakpoint. Now let's debug this. Let's click on next. So let's see. Now you're going to make a call and I return others, which is count of 2. We are creating this other service. We specify the interface, that is what we need, fake one. And now we're going to make a call to this other. And in here, we want to check the results, and here the results is count is 2. So next, the count should be 2 as well, and it should be greater than 2. So this has worked. Yep. So this brings us to the end of this video. We've come a long way in our e-commerce microservices journey, from setting up our shared library and building the core products and other APIs to configuring our Ocelot gateway, and finally ensuring everything works seamlessly with comprehensive unit tests. I hope you found this series insightful and now feel more confident in creating robust microservices architectures. Remember, testing is crucial for maintaining a reliable and scalable application. Thank you for joining me throughout this series, but do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more tutorials from my channel. Happy coding! Catch you up again. Till then, take care.